And we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Today, I have a very special guest and a guy who has become a friend of mine by the name of Chad Battles. Chad is a professional redfish tournament angler as well as a veteran. And the first thing I need to tell you is the Garden State Outdoor Sports Show is going to take place January 6th through 9th of 2022. That's going to be in the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center in Edison, New Jersey. And I'm very pleased to announce the Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoors Show. It's going to take place from January 13th to the 16th of 2022. That's 4 days of sports shows, guys, at the Lake County Fairgrounds in Grays Lake, Illinois. Go on in there, walk into the Grant Rods booth, and tell them Jay sent you. They're going to put some of the best rods in the world in your hands. You're not going to believe the difference. Okay, now it's time for me to talk to Chad. How you doing tonight, Chad? Chad, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. How's everything going on your end?
It's going good. We just had a storm go through. So, Chad, you fish. What states do you fish redfish tournaments in?
I fish them in Louisiana and Texas. That's where I've fished the majority of the tournaments.
Okay. So Louisiana and Texas, that's, boy, probably a good 500 miles of shoreline there, isn't there?
Oh, 500,000 fishable acres, maybe 5 million fishable acres. I don't know. It's vast. It's just enormous, and it makes my mind just blown sometimes at how much water you got to cover to try to be successful or even have a shot.
Wow. So why don't you tell us your boat? Do you have a tower on your boat?
Yeah, I drive from a top drive, so I got a Mayak Illusion. It rides up. I ride up. I don't know, probably give or take 10 feet above the water's surface. I'm driving. Got a 250 show, Yamaha show. Yeah, I'm up there with a TRP, which has two props, and it's a semi-tunnel. So what it does is it channels the water to the props, and it allows me to ride. And the specs say they can work in 8 inches of water, and that's fairly consistent with what I've noticed.
That as we said in the military, there's some pucker factor there, huh?
Yeah, it comes with a lot of messed up props. Even if you don't hit something, just the props in the mud and the sand. You're gonna come across some bad days where you wish you could have that one back, but it's just part of it. It's part of the game, and redfish predominantly live in shallow water. 3 feet and below is about what I fish 98% of the time.
Nice. Except in the wintertime, right?
In the wintertime, everything changes because, we start getting those winds here. The north winds blow all the water out the marsh. You'll have entire ponds, flats, bays that no longer have any water. And then when the water falls out, the grass dies. So now everything's back to square one. You're no longer sight fishing. And when I say redfish tournaments, predominantly we're sight fishing tournaments. Now, if the weather's bad, yeah, you can still kind of get a little window. But in the winter, everything changes. You're not sight fishing. If you are, it's probably dirty water. But most of the fish drop off into the channels, where you're dealing with 6 foot of water, give or take. And that's where the fish can live even when the water falls. If they're on the flats, they're going to get stuck and die. So they know, get off the flats, get into deeper channels. And that's where you start targeting them. I start targeting them with like rattle traps from Bill Lewis, square bill crankbaits from Black Label. And even
that's
Bill
fun.
Lewis has a little square bill crankbait I use. Oh, yeah. Because it's fishing. It really just becomes bass fishing now. It's all
Yeah,
structure fishing. You know, you're not worried about floating across a grass flat. You know,
but
you're targeting hard structure.
ripping a crankbait or a lipless crankbait across a drop off
Uh-huh.
and having even a medium sized red, something about 22 inches, grab that thing. Wow, that'd be fun.
Oh, it is fun, and that's the thing is that, you know, it's a great search bait for finding them when it's cold, because a lot of times they'll they'll bunch up and they'll get in real small spots, and even if they're not in a small spot, they're in the area. The spots that I find I can usually get a strike from is like the size of a truck bed. You know, even if you're just catching one at a time, you know, them fish will start funneling through and you'll catch them, but they're not there. They're not sitting on it, but they're eating on a certain spot, and you can just keep catching them.
Wow. So, what is your favorite go-to lure this time of the year?
Uh, Basically, I use a 3-prong approach. I throw a square bill, a balsa square bill. It's called a Wreck from Black Label, and I throw the Rattle Trap, and I'm actually, even though it's winter and the water be dirty sometimes, in dirty water I will throw a chrome sexy shad.
From Rattle Trap, okay.
Yeah. And I will throw this chrome sexy shad in muddy water. It's
Well, it makes a
just
lot of
something
noise.
that it does, but you know, a lot of people have a lot of different theories on there, but for some reason with the Rattle Trap, I always have success with, you know, like shad imitation baits. Another one I got, and I just got these, and this is a Rattle Trap. So, you know, in the marsh, a spoon works all the time,
Oh yeah.
and the copper spoons. So Bill Lewis came out. They got a Rattle Trap now that is copper in color.
And what size is
It's
that?
This is a 1/2 ounce. You can throw a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4, depending on your depth. If I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce, I want it to be around 3 to 5. If I'm throwing 3/8, I want it to be 3 and below.
Okay,
You
so you're
know,
talking 3/8 rather than 3/4.
yeah, 3/8, not 3/4. Yes.
Okay, because you said 3/4, I'm like, that's an awfully big bait to be thrown in
No,
2 feet of water.
3/8. No, 3/8. I misspoke. 3/8. Yeah.
Oh,
And
no problem.
last but not least, I don't have one on me, but I throw a chatterbait. I throw a jackhammer in a bluegill.
Oh yeah, I like my chatterbaits, man. Do you put anything on back of the chatterbait?
Yeah,
Like
I
a
do.
Gamakatsu Seiko?
I put some type of yeah, I actually have put them on there. I put the V&M Thunder Shad on there a lot. It gives me the swimming profile, and then if I need like a bluegill type profile or whatever, I'll use the they call it a J bug, or a V&M J bug, and what it is it's got the 2 little flippies. It gives it a crawfish profile, but it also gives it a bluegill type profile. So you can turn it vertical and put it on the hook up and down per se, like this, and it'll give you the bluegill profile. But that also allows it to go a little deeper because it's up and
Yes.
down, it's vertical, so it swims. But then when you wanna come through the water column or drag it along the bottom, you just rig it regularly, and you can drag it across like a crawl, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's
One of
real
the
versatile.
best times I ever had red fishing was out in Lake Calcasieu. We were out on the jetties, and we were starting to catch some bigger reds. And I asked the guide if I could go up there and flip those rocks, the jetties. And he thought that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, well, it was just like bass fishing, you know. And he's like, "You're getting bit, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, they're just tapping it." He said, "That's a redfish." I said, "No, man, redfish bite better than because no, dude, I fish for redfish every day. Please believe me." I said, "You are right. You fish for redfish every single day. I do not." So next time I got that tap, I set the hook. You know, I could not believe how soft they were biting those jigs because bass just inhale them. This thing was just, and it was a great big.
Yeah, and you know what happened a lot of times is the fish really isn't moving. Yeah, the fish really isn't moving. A lot of times they'll just mouth it. They'll put it in their mouth and they might not be moving far, and they're just eating it. They'll just, you know, I've had times where I've been fishing and I got a bite and I don't even know it per se, and then when I go to move it again or give it a little action, it'll just stop. And you know, in the winter or whatever, or if it's colder months, fall, they're just there, not moving. It comes across them and they just, you know, they're just being lazy. They just eat it. You know, and that's something about the rattle trap. With the rattle trap is what I can do is, you know, I can give that an action, whether I can rip it, I can just pull it off the bottom and let it float down. You know, it can be as subtle as you want, or it can be as aggressive as you want, depending on the conditions, you know. And also a lot of times I use 20 to 25 pound fluorocarbon on them. You know, when I'm sight fishing, I'm all braid.
Sure.
Because I kind of, you know, it's a reaction deal. You know, I throw the jig on the redfish. He's going to bite it. He's not. That's what I do. But, you know, it really gets into more of a predictive fishing. You know, you need to worry about a lot more variables. And what happens with the fluorocarbon is because it's a heavier, denser line.
Sure.
I can make long cast, right?
Yes.
But because it's denser and it floats down, it allows me to drag that bait across the bottom much easier. Whereas the braid will float, that fluorocarbon's dragging that bait down to the bottom all the time.
Okay.
Now, the 20 and the 25 pound is because A, it's really shallow, and B, it's redfish. I mean, a redfish has a lot of teeth. They're hard-bodied. You know, you could come across their scales. Sometimes they get hooked weird, and you could break off. But that 20, 25 pound fluorocarbon gives you a lot more leeway. I don't really go with a leader per se because I like to have the weight of the fluorocarbon to keep the bait on the bottom. Because when it's cold outside, everything's on the bottom. I mean, at least what I'm fishing for. You know, everything relates to the bottom. Everything slows down. You know, you're looking for truck-sized targets. And, you know, I've literally power pulled down and caught 50 fish in one little spot.
50 fish in a spot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh, in the winter, because it's freezing cold, you get to the deepest water in the area. You know, you got in the summer and in the spring, you got these big, vast open flats. You know, you got grass everywhere. The fish, they spread out. But when it gets cold, when you know, once your fronts start rolling, you're dealing with predictable fish 100% of the time. You can set your clock to winter fishing here.
Wow. That's really cool. Well, I'm going to have to go winter fishing this year. I'm going to have to go. I mean, 50 fish in one spot. My goodness.
Yeah. Now you look, if, you know, one other. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's in Delacroix. You know, Delacroix has a lot of rivers, you know, a lot of channels, a lot of water, and those fish just live there. You know, they might not all be tournament winners, you know, but we're just talking about fun fishing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and you can really learn a lot because right, and honestly, I mean, you can teach yourself a lot. You can learn how to start feeling subtle bites. You can teach yourself, that where the redfish go. But realistically speaking, if you want to target a redfish in winter in Louisiana, now we're talking about the marsh. Just go bass fishing wherever is going to be a
Darn. I hope we're not losing them.
I mean,
This is some good information here, guys. Okay.
Catch bass quick with you.
Okay, we lost about half of that. You were talking about just go bass fishing if you want to catch
Right.
reds in winter in Louisiana.
If you want to catch redfish in winter in Louisiana, you really just go bass fishing. Okay. A fish is a fish, and bass and redfish are really, really similar in behavior. I actually started out bass fishing a lot, and then I transitioned to redfish. Not to take anything away from red fishing, but in red fishing, you're really dealing with a limited number of techniques. You're going to throw the popping cork, you're going to throw a spinner bait, you're going to throw a jig sight fishing, but it's really not, you can visualize and you can see the fish if they're there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. In red fishing, in bass fishing, you're not dealing with that. You don't know. Even if you can have the best electronics known to man, if the fish are hugging the bottom, you won't know.
Or if they're under the mat, yeah.
Yeah, the only depth finder you got is a jig with a hook. That tells you if they got fish there.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's something about hard baits in winter that those fish go crazy. I think what happens is a lot they stop feeding visually, and they really transition to lateral line so they can feel the vibrations, and that's why the chatterbait comes into play real good.
Chatterbait or your rattle traps, yeah. Rattle traps make a lot of vibrations.
From what I understand, a lot of so the rattle trap, as loud as it is, and as much as we can hear, the fish actually hear it and feel it differently. They're dealing with it through the lateral line, and then they can come and attack it. And usually they'll come and attack it, and they'll switch to, once they get close, they'll start looking for it with their eyes. But a lot of times they're just hunting for it with the lateral line through the vibration. And even though it sounds noisy and loud to us, a lot of times the fish feel the vibration from the bait, and that's what gets them to come and target it. But then on the other hand, if you've ever seen a bait get spooked and shoot out of a grass flat or anything from behind a stick, okay, what do? They shoot out, and then they kind of stop, and that's what a rattle trap does. And that's why I think in the marsh they're so successful, because if I rip that bait, it comes out hard, and then I just stop it and let it flutter. And that's exactly what real bait does.
That's why spoons are so good.
Right. There's no sound,
but it's
the biggest thing with sound. Right. And if the fish isn't, if it's not on the fish's nose, you're going to need some sound to it. But also what I've noticed is if it's really, really cold, that fish is kind of lethargic. Okay. You can throw all kind of baits by them. You can throw a jig, and if they see the jig, they'll eat the jig. Yes. But if it's just silent and you're not making much noise and you're just coming by, they'll ignore it. But when it's colder, they need to feel something. They need to know that there's something going on, and then they'll react. And that's why a lot of the baits I throw in the winter have a natural profile, and they look like a bait fish or something similar, but they also have a noise making effect, you know, and I think that is it. And the Rattle Trap is the perfect bait because it displaces a lot of water. A lot of people don't realize that when that rattle trap's coming through the water, it's displacing a ton of water. It's disturbing everything. It's creating little micro currents when that bait comes through. It is a really, really obnoxious bait.
It's got those
Then
BBs.
it's got the BBs, and then they got the one knockers where they just go cuck, 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 cuck. And you know, then you know, so now you got the water disturbance, you got the rattles, and you got the shape. So you know, you're really interacting with a bunch of senses of the fish. And the most, you know, when it's cold and they're lethargic, you want something that's gonna get the most bang for your buck. You know, if a guy's going down the street with a trombone or a trumpet, you're gonna hear him. You're gonna know he's there. You know, especially if it's coming at 10 o'clock at night, you're not gonna be too thrilled. But if the guy's just walking down the street in running shoes, you know, and you want to be that when you're fishing, you want to be the guy making all the noise because the fish don't have hands. So all he can do to interact with that is bite it.
Yep.
You know, and now when we get into the bite, one thing that the rattle trap has that a lot of people don't realize about rattle traps in general is that these baits come with much grips. And what that it's the same hooks that the black labels come with. What it is I'll show it to you. You see how I got the short shank on the hook, but it's got a little turn to it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so this is actually a slim. They call it a slim from Black Label, but it's the you know, it's a change up bait with the rattle trap. And I'll show you. Hold on a second. Let me get this bait out. I just had them send me some new ones because it's winter time, and I'm actually going to be making a trip to Gunnersville real soon to go get crazy with some bass, and I do take out the craws. You know, I had these sent because this is like a Gunnersville staple. Yeah.
Is that an actual
super
Bill
tough.
Lewis lure? Is that a Bill Lewis lure?
Yes, sir. This is the yes, it is. It's actually a Bill Lewis. It's Rattle Trap. Let's see, where's the box? I just had it. Here we go. Yeah, it's actually the Toledo Gold. It's a this one's a half ounce. I got a box. I got a little care package to go smash them on Gunnersville. And so up there, they're dealing with a lot of red on Gunnersville is the go-to. You'll see a lot of the guys, and so that's why I pulled out some of my other red baits for that trip also. But I got a little present that that Bill Lewis is coming out with a new bait from the MJD series that I'm gonna try out on Gunnersville. It's their
okay, guys, looks like we might have lost him.
It's their new
back. Whoa.
I'm back.
He's back. Glad you're back. Hey, Chad, are you back?
Yeah, this weather is awful over here. We must be getting with. I am. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You know, it's from where you live all the way up to where I live. I live north of Denham Springs, you know. So that's quite a big storm.
Yeah, it's huge. Yes,
It's
sir.
quite a
And
big
so
storm.
look, so I got a special bait.
Okay.
This is supposed to be. This is the 10 to 12 foot diver to hit those deeper holes that they're coming out with. And yeah, on ledges, rocks, any deep channel swing or long winding point, where you need to hit something. We're gonna see. And that's yeah, so that bait's coming with me. But yeah, that's about honestly the only other bait that I'll use. And I only use this other bait in a certain situation, but I just use we call them a beetle spin,
Oh yeah.
But I use like a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce jig head on it with just like one Colorado blade. And my go-to for redfish, if I'm throwing, I gotta have this. I don't care where you fish. If you're fishing for a red, you better have these.
Berkeley Gulp.
If you are fishing for a redfish anywhere in the world, you better have that black and chartreuse ripple mullet. I'm telling you.
Black and chartreuse ripple mullets. Okay, guys, you heard it here first.
Yeah, it's called Morning Glory. Now look, I'm not gonna tell you that you can't go fishing one day and catch a redfish on a used spark plug, all right? Because when it's good, it's good. But if when I need to catch them, when money's on the line and I've got to catch these fish, I can't play games. I can't risk having $5,000 in a tournament and not do every single thing I can do to be successful. I'm throwing that bait.
Yes.
I've seen them turn around and swim 10 feet away from it. With redfish, and this is kind of similar to smallmouth. I talked to this with Cliff Pace and Patrick Walters lately. Patrick Walters actually did the Bassmaster redfish deal, and Chris Zaldane too. And I talked to them about it, and something about the black with the smallmouth, and something about the black with the redfish. That black gulp just really, really does them in. And it doesn't matter where you're fishing. If you're new to fishing, don't have a lot of experience, and just need a bait that if you throw it, I'm putting that on a 1/4 ounce jig, and it's the most versatile bait you've ever thrown for a redfish, and they're gonna eat it. They're gonna eat it.
So that's Berkeley Gulp,
Ripple mullet, Morning Glory.
Ripple mullets, Morning Glory.
Yep.
Remember that, guys. You heard it here.
I don't even get them for free. Like I pay for those. I buy them from Academy like everybody else. I'll buy 100 packs at a time.
I buy them from Academy. Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't get them for free. They don't give me a penny. But the reality of redfishing is that that's the bait you need. Sure, you catch them on other things, but
of course,
if you're fishing, but it's just there's something with it. I've seen it work too many times.
Well, if it's a good bait, it's a good bait. Berkeley does make some really good stuff. Really good stuff.
It's got the action, the size. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like the flatworm.
Yeah, it's got the action. It's got the size. The flatworm for the smallmouth. It's outrageous because Berkeley does a lot of research and development. They actually have scientists on staff that test that. They do testing to see what the fish's colors, what they can see. They do testing to see what shapes. That's why if you go into the research, 4 inches is the perfect length to catch any fish that swims. Bass, like a lot of those shad-shaped worms or the Berkeley stuff, 4 inches. The swim baits, 4 inches. That's what a fish eats, no matter where he's at, is some type of small prey.
I'm smiling because that's my favorite size of wacky worm, 4 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, and a 10-pounder is going to eat it, and so is a 1-pounder.
Yeah, so is a 6-incher. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to catch anything. You're going to catch anything. It's kind of like if you really just want to go somewhere and see what swims in the water, throw like a real 1/32 beetle spin with like a 1-inch twin tail grub. You're going to find out anything that lives there, because if that swims by any fish ever, they're going to eat that little bitty spinnerbait.
Or a 4-inch wacky worm.
Or a 4-inch wacky worm, My thing is, I've always liked to be a power fisherman. I like to be moving. I got the ADD. I gotta, my mind's got to be occupied. I got to be moving my hands. I can't sit there. I've seen people absolutely catch gobs of fish slow on a wacky worm, but it ain't for me. I need to be moving, throwing some kind of power bait, ripping a rattle trap, yanking a crankbait. It's just, I don't know. I need the visual aspect of it. And unfortunately, that's costing me money at times.
That works too. What you're talking about, it works. Plain and simple. And so does, wacky rigging. It's just the way it is, man. It's all
and this kind of
for different styles.
Right. And this ties into
Oh man.
Oh yeah, and this ties into what we were talking about earlier about how there's a lot of fishable water.
Yes.
You got to go with, when you're fishing, no matter who you are, you got to look for areas that are going to suit your style. If I'm red fishing, I'm targeting shallow grass flats where it meets deeper water, because that's what my deal is. I know how to catch them shallow. That is my strength and my Achilles heel at the same time, because when the water's shallow, sometimes the fish get harder to eat. But it gives me more confidence. When I'm bass fishing, I like points and big grass flats. I can kind of like run around them with the trolling motor. I can pull up to a point, and I tell you, I fished a point 5 minutes. I know if a fish is there. I can cover every angle, and it gets into, that's what works for me. And so the beauty of fishing, no matter if it's a redfish or a bass, is what we're talking about. I can catch them the way I like to catch them, and you can catch them the way you like to catch them. And in tournament situations, honestly, I mean, there's so many ways to win it. It really boils down to a lot of luck.
Yes. Yeah, there's a skill factor in there too, but yeah, the right fish has to be there and has to be in the right mood.
That's right. Yeah, because I mean, anytime you're fishing, there's an element of luck, because you don't know what's under the water. Even the best fishermen are making educated guesses. How many times have you seen a guy leading the tournament, blowing the doors off, and then all of a sudden the next day comes around and they don't catch nothing?
And Kevin Van Dam comes from behind it. I have seen that happen countless times.
Right.
That's why I like watching tournaments. That's my football.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and honestly, I love multiple days.
I stood up and cheered for Chris Saldane one time, and he was on Guntersville, throwing a spoon. Most thrilling bass fishing coverage I've ever seen.
He's a good guy. Him and Trade. I got to spend some time with them. They're really nice.
Man, he's like, okay. I have 10 minutes to get back there. If I run wide open, I can get back there in 8. I'm like, get going, Chris, get going. It was too exciting.
Yeah,
It was
and
just too exciting.
I got to talk to him, and he's real analytical. And if a lot of guys that watch the Bassmaster Redfish deal where he was fishing is he was fishing for an area that might be like 300 feet by 500 feet, just like a little square. And they fished that area for 3 days. And I'm gonna tell you, they knew that they were targeting big mullet. And when people saw him start throwing that mag draft swim bait, and it was kind of unusual, they thought, for redfish, but it really wasn't, because it was mimicking what, that's exactly, but that's what the fish were eating in big mullet. And I mean, it's a perfect representation. And look, I mean, they had a great event. They wound up winning it. I mean,
they won. Yeah.
It goes to show you. They almost didn't make it through day 2. They caught 2 fish all day. And it just goes to show you how luck has a factor, because they caught 2 fish on day 2 and caught 40 on day 3. The fish were moving toward them,
Yes. Yes. Well, Chad, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do?
Oh yeah, man. Naturally, Bill Lewis, Wes Higgins, they really support me. They always help me out when I need things or whatever they've done for me. And I catch a lot of fish on their products. And if in the marsh, I think that 3/8 ounce chrome sexy shad with the Rattle Trap is the deal. I think as far as the cranking, I like the Black Label Wreck. It's a bull bream or a river brim color. I fished that with Cliff, and we've both had days where we caught 100 bass, probably reds mixed in it. You can get those baits, you can get them at BillLewis.com. You can get those, the Rattle Traps anywhere. You can get them at Academy. And then as far as the Black Labels, you can get those at Wood Bait Country. They got them in there. And one of the new things we did is that Cliff has the baits. He put a rattle in the balsa baits. So if you don't like the silent ones, you can get them with rattles now.
Nice. A balsa lure with rattles.
I'm back.
Nice. But a balsa lure with rattles, man, that is.
He's only got 5.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, before I did this interview, I called Cliff and I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna talk about what I catch him on, and I catch him on the wreck in the river brim. And I said, I saw that you had some of the rattles. I said, when would you throw the rattles versus the non-rattles? Because if I don't really throw the rattles, but it's something new. So I wanted to make sure I have the up-to-date information. And he's like, Battles, if I wanted to throw one with rattles, then I would throw the one with rattles. And if I needed to throw one without, I'd throw the one without. I was like, no, that's not what I'm asking you, bro. But yeah, so I guess the top thinking from one of the greatest balsa crankers is, if you need them with rattles, throw it with rattles. If you don't, then just throw them without the rattles. I don't know.
So can people order Black Label lures online?
Yeah. Yes, you can get them from woodbaitcountry.com.
Woodbaitcountry.com. Okay, guys, you heard that here. Woodbaitcountry.com. And man, if Cliff uses it, Cliff's a legend in the bass fishing world. To win the Bassmaster Classic, that's a thing, That's a thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's a special guy. And I mean, I'll tell you, he's one of the hardest workers I know. I mean, all of the guys that I know and want to be like and look up to, they're all hard workers,
Yep.
None of this is easy. It takes, it takes hard work and dedication. And I mean, these guys, yep.
You've got to be willing to work hard, particularly in this, because this business you and I are in, it's competitive. And if you aren't willing to do it, there's 300 guys in back of you who are.
Yeah.
So, you work hard, and you just got to be good at what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you have any other?
No, that's 100%. You got to work hard and be good.
Do you have any other shout outs you'd like to do?
The only other thing I got going is is the professional Redfish League. It's we're going into the third year of it. It's going to be real good this year. You know, if you're looking to get into red fishing or you want to follow it, you that's coming up. I mean, they're going to have a one man this year where we're just going to have, one guy fishing against one guy. A lot of redfish tournaments have teams, and this is going to allow you to have one man against one man. There's going to be no excuses. That's what I want. I want to fish me against you or whoever else, because that's the only way to know who the best is.
Wow.
If we got a lot of different things going with it. We got to have some good
So
feeds
talk
on
about
it.
that. Is this going to be like a head-to-head format?
It's not going to be so much head-to-head. What it's going to be is it's going to be like a regular tournament. One guy, one boat, 2 fish, 2 days. The winner's the best person for those 2 days. It's not, a lot of times when you got team events, it really hamstrings people because getting a partner schedule to coincide with yours is really difficult, and then, different temperaments, it's really easier to fish by yourself.
Yes.
You can win or die on your decisions, and with me, when I'm fishing with a partner, I'm always mindful and considerate of my partner, and I want to know what they want to do or whatever, and sometimes I won't do what I want to do because I want to be a good partner and work as a team. But when it's just me, I can just go and do whatever feels right. And that's when I have the most success, when I can just get turned loose and find fish right now. That is what I think is my greatest skill, is I can find the fish and stay with the fish. I can move with them, because different conditions during the day bring different patterns. If it's sunny and great, yeah, they'll be floating everywhere. But what happens when the clouds come? What happens if you get a stiff wind that's kind of pushing the water? Or what if the tide's a little falling hard? I mean, there's so many different variables, and fish that you thought were there aren't there anymore. And sometimes, just going fishing is the best way to do it. And that's what I enjoy, because I can just go fishing. And a lot of times I find good stuff in short periods of time versus, having to stick to a plan and fishing rigid,
Sure. So you're going to have like a, what do they call them? You going to have one of the tournament officials in your boat, or is it just you?
No, we're not going to have anything like that. It's going to be just you, the biggest fish. You take a polygraph at the end. Maybe the top 3 or 4 guys will take a polygraph. And then they the one man, but then they're also going to have a team deal, which is going to have some really big payouts. Upwards of $40,000 for 3 events.
Wow.
And this series is kind of getting crazy, because at the end of the year, he's giving away 5 boats that'll probably be valued at around $80,000 to $130,000 each.
Well, I do wish you the best of luck with that, and I'm going to be following Actually, Let's Talk Fishing podcast is going to be following your tournament season. So
yeah, I'll come back, man. I mean, I'll come back whenever you want me to, man. I love talking fishing, especially with you, man. We always have a blast.
Well, that's great, Chad, because you definitely do well on the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. We've always enjoyed talking to you too, and it's talking redfish is something a little different. So I enjoy it. Also, I enjoy it because I'm down here in Southern Louisiana and I can actually do it. I think there are more redfish down here than there are bass. So
and you did tell me you were going to come fishing with me, but you had your surgery, but now you're getting better. So I'm looking for you to come with me.
I'm getting better. I might be able to go out there and sit with you for half the day and fish with you for half the day. But yeah, I'd definitely be.
Hey man, we will make it whatever you need.
I'd be honored to
I'll
do
get
that,
you up there, dude. Look, we'll go catch him.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, my
That'd
boat's
be fun.
right now is in Corpus. It's getting redone. I'm getting everything. It's gonna be factory new when it comes back. I got it at the glass man. He's Kevin Shaw is gonna take care of it, dude. That boat's coming back brand new, so it's gonna be even prettier in 2022.
Woo! Let me know when it gets back, man.
Oh, I will, dude. I sure will, man. I appreciate you having me on, dude.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to thank everybody for listening for watching the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. In closing, I have to tell you that the Garden State Outdoor Sports Show is going to take place from January 6th through 9th of 2022 at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center. That's in Edison, New Jersey. The Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoor Show is going to take place from January 13th to the 16th. That's 4 days of sports shows, guys, in 2022 at the Lake County Fairgrounds. That's in Grays Lake, Illinois. And with that, I'd like to thank you again, Chad. And everybody have a good evening.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.